Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Honor the Feminine podcast. I'm your host, Shannon Ledford, and today we have Erin Wood with us, and we're about to have some fun. As you know, we start each episode with an image and story from my travels, because when I was traveling is where I really started to hear my intuition again. When I got outside of the day-to-day chaos and noise and expectations of my life, I started to hear her whispers. And I know she was always there, but she'd just gotten muffled. So today, our image is called Bloom Your Brilliance. And actually, it was taken in the garden in Northern California where I grew up. Being out in the world created space for a deeper relationship and devotion in all areas of my life. The crabapple blossoms bounce off the landscape with their shocking pink hue. Femme rose vif is an infamous deity. She floats her way through the sky, granting wishes all along the way. May she enchant you. May your devotion to her activate the blossoming of your brilliance as it wells up within you. And this is the image that reminds me of our guest today, Erin Wood. Casey, welcome.
Oh, thank you so much. It's great to be here, Shannon.
So share yourself with us. Tell us about you.
Well, I love that you chose that image. I don't know if you just intuited it or if you checked out sort of what I'm about a little bit. And I have a big love for what I call people's authentic brilliance, which is like that essence, the quality of them that is so unique that people feel when they're in touch with it, that changes people's lives. Like it's more than their talents or their God-given gifts, or however you want to describe it. It's the full essence of them. It's their passions, it's their life experience, and it's all of that rolled into one. And I like to help women sort of get in touch with that so they can share it with the world, because I truly believe that our authentic brilliance is why we're here on this planet. And when we share it, we heal not only ourselves, but those who we come in contact with. So I love that you picked that image. Blossoming to brilliance. Gorgeous.
I mostly intuit all of it. And because I know you a little bit, that's what came up. And actually it's interesting because most of the time they are from my foreign travels, but this one happened to be from home.
I love that too. Love that.
Yeah. So can you talk to us a little bit about this full essence of ourselves, and how did you get in touch with yours? Like, what was your journey?
Well, for me, we always learn growing up, or you hear so much growing up, especially once you get into any kind of personal development, follow your bliss, live your passion, live your legend, all these kinds of things. And I think it can sometimes disconnect you from what that really is. You go looking for these great, massive things, and you see other people doing beautiful things in the world, and you're like, oh, if only I had that. But when you stop long enough and sort of look at the things that you're good at, you start to realize you have this amazing brilliance within you, and it's really hard to see in yourself.
Yes.
You take it for granted, right? Like, look at you right now. Maybe you're aware of it now, but you may not have been, say, before you started the podcast or did other things, but you have a beautiful way of making people feel comfortable and eliciting people's vulnerability and getting in, and having them speak on that level. You probably never really thought about it for the longest of times. You probably just had really great friends, and maybe not in the beginning. It may have been a bit hidden to even you. But then as it started to come out, you realize people are always saying, oh my God, I just love talking to you. It's so great. Oh, and people are always reaching out to you for advice and things, because it's naturally who you are. So you miss it. So I think it's a discovery, coming back to yourself. It's a discovery of who you are. And I think a lot of our most important things, are the things that we get wounded around. So I think those things, I say that what I like to do is work with women and on their journey of healing. And to me, healing is going back on this journey of of picking up all the pieces of yourself that got left somewhere along the way through wounding. And, it doesn't even have to be massive, overt, traumas. You can just, you shed pieces of yourself because it's not cool in high school or whatever. And so the journey of healing is coming back around and picking up all those things and valuing them. And then you see how they weave together and how they mix together to make you super unique. Like the talents that you have for podcasting aren't not just only your interviewing talents, right? It's all of the things that have brought you to this moment, your travels. That's one of the reasons I loved, finding out more about your backstory, because our life experiences are such a part of our brilliance. And a lot of people are just like, oh, well, that happened to me and maybe it didn't turn out so well, or they've got some sort of stories of challenges that they don't realize have shaped them and made them exactly who they are and brought them to this place where they are right now.
Oh, you touched on so many gorgeous things. Because yes, that idea of our innate gifts, the ones that we don't see, like someone gifted me at one point, Shannon, you're a connector. And I just thought everybody did that because it's just what I do. And you start to realize that, oh no. And then that valuing of, like, that's where I lost my intuition, right? Is that idea that it wasn't valued in the arena where I was playing as a corporate lawyer in Manhattan. Mm-hmm. So I set her to the side. And as I did, she got more muffled and more muffled. And I bet if I went back, there were ways in which I was chipping away at that. Yeah. But this beautiful around picking up the pieces and reweaving the tapestry that is you. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's so true. It doesn't have to be massive things. It can be just little things. And, the skills that you had as a corporate lawyer are also weaving into what you're doing now. I mean, none of that stuff is ever lost. My mom is here visiting, and God bless her soul, but sometimes she said, my niece is working in a job and she recently graduated from university. And my mom's like, oh, but it's sad because it has nothing to do with her degree. And I said, Mom, nothing is ever lost. Like it's all part of it. It's all part of her journey. It's all bringing her to where she's meant to be. And if we keep digging and we keep picking up the pieces, then we really do find our true path. And that's when we can come into our authentic brilliance, home to ourselves, and start really affecting the world in a beautiful way.
Oh, and I think that speaks so beautifully to each of our unique tapestries, right? Because even if you and I have some threads or some training that's the same, the way we weave it together with all these nuances and all these variables, it's different. And those are the gifts we get to share with the world.
Exactly. And I think that here's the part I didn't say, and then I think it's missed a ton, is like your quirky weirdness, right? We always try to hide, or so many people try to hide these quirky weirdness, especially when you first get out into, like, say, the online world. It's like you want to seem polished and you want to seem professional and you want to seem, so you hide like all the best weird things about yourself instead of sharing them. And that is the gold. Oh my God, that's the best stuff. Like the weirder, the better. You're like, I am obsessed with television. I come from a film industry background originally, and I kind of like, oh, put that to the side. No, that's a massive part of who I am. I love binge watching television. I love characters and character development. And like, why am I like making that not about my business? It's now a huge part of my business, helping people develop their story and telling that story in a vulnerable, beautiful way. Bring it. Bring all your parts in.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've been feeling into recently. The first thing that came up when you said that was, let your freak flag fly. Mm-hmm. Like just let that sucker flap in the wind. Exactly. And for me, recently, it's been around coming out of my magical closet, right? Mm. And speaking into the rituals that I do and the magic and the signs and symbols and some stuff that I felt like people, if I started to speak into it, people would think I was crazy and not take me seriously. But it's Hallelujah. My truth.
Exactly. That's so funny because that's one I hid for a long time, especially when I was first started in coaching. It was like, I better keep my woo-woo like a little bit dialed down. Like I'll share it a little bit. Yeah, I did a 3-year program in energy healing, and but now it's like, Hells yeah, I'm an energy healer. Like that is a gift that I have. And if you think it's woo woo and voodoo school, like my surrogate dad used to call it, that's okay. I'm all right with that. But that's who I am.
Yeah, I'm an intuitive channel. And I'm like living into that now more than I ever have. And I'm starting to talk about it. And it's okay to talk about it.
Yes. And of course, the more you talk about it, when you start opening that door, then that's one of the pieces you're calling back. You're calling back that light back to yourself. And then you're valuing it. And the more you know, as you value it, the stronger that gift becomes.
Yeah. And so much of all of this, when we talk about like attuning to magic and intuition, these are muscles.
Absolute muscles.
Yeah. That we work with. But more importantly, I hate to use work with because it's more like play with.
Play with.
And the more we play with them, the stronger they get. And the more they just open up to us.
It is so true. And okay, I'm so loving that you're talking about this because this is what I'm working on right now. And this is when, by the time, this comes out for your people, it's going to be fully up. But I've started something called the Ruby Slipper School of Magic. Yes, right. And it's literally to teach people the fundamental tools and what I call feminine practices that are going to lead them home to their brilliance and their power. So it starts off with an initiation challenge where I literally teach the fundamentals, getting in touch with your intuition, noticing the signs and symbols from the universe and synchronicity, exquisite self-care, like all of the best bits. And it's learnable. These are learnable tools.
In fact, it's your divine right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the thing is that I find that the people who come into my world tend to be that, you tend to work with the same people over and over because they're drawn to you, right?
And they probably were you. I mean, you probably
exactly.
were them.
Well, that's the way I always talk about the work I do. And I think most people do. You teach what you need to learn. And I feel like you may have heard the same sort of analogy that it's like, we're all walking our path and it's like, I'm just a couple steps ahead and I'm just reaching my hand back and saying, come, I'm a couple steps ahead and I have some answers. Come with me. And that's how I think about it. So I totally always resonate with my people because it's not that long ago that I was having that exact same struggle. Sorry, I forgot where I was going with that because I got all excited about the teaching what you know. But they're very, very teachable skills. And here's who comes into my world. It is people who are highly intuitive, that are highly empathic. As children, they had it in spades and it got muffled, like you described. You're too sensitive, that's not real, it's only what you can see and what you can explain to other people, what everybody else can see, that's the only real thing. And so they started to devalue like these massive gifts. And a lot of people in this same realm have a lot of like body stuff because they're so empathic. So they tend to get sick more easily. They have migraines, kinds of things where your body takes in energy and doesn't quite know what to do with it. And so it manifests in maybe not the greatest of ways, but really that's also a gift. You're like, their bodies are like highly tuned instruments that are sensing what's going on. And once you learn how to deal with that and how to manage those energies, it is like the biggest gift.
Yes. And I love this idea too, that idea of that 2 steps ahead. I mean, thank God that came into my world because I had this old story around, I have to have it all figured out, the polished and all figured out. Here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen, it is messy often.
All the days.
But I can share some of these really deep rememberings that have happened to me so that I can activate the remembering in you. See, here's the thing. We all have it within us. We're just activating and enlivening the remembering. I'm not teaching you anything new.
It's so, so, so true. And if we waited for everybody, like for us to get to the end of our whatever it is, because there's no end really.
Surprise, surprise.
Surprise, surprise. There is no end. You're always on the journey. The world can't wait. The world cannot wait. You need to be sharing your magic now. You need to be looking, in your circle, in your community, in your sister-in-law or your friend or the neighbor down the street. And you got to be sharing the tools right now, because we need to raise the vibration of this earth.
And so here's something else that I've come into really recently that I've realized about myself. I have this story around that, like somehow that's finite, that wisdom or something, like it's not all mine. Like I'm realizing this is an old story now, right? And that like, I need to just be out sharing what I've got right now. And Goddess keeps telling me, as you do that, I promise you it's just going to open up space. I'm going to flood it all in. Don't worry. And it's infinite. So you never have to worry. Exactly. And I'm like, are you sure?
It's so true.
I mean, there's part of me that like totally can feel the truth of all of that and surrender to it. And then there's that part of me that keeps coming up and being like, are you sure?
Absolutely. And that voice keeps coming. Even once you've walked through that story, it's like, oh, I had one of those instances this week. What day are we? It was last week. I made a video for this initiation challenge, like welcoming people in and to try to explain to them what we're going to do in this challenge. And one of the things I talked about was, the answers that you're so desperately seeking for aren't going to be found from your mother or your uncle or your whatever, or a guru on the mountaintop. They are inside of you and always have been. So super happy with the video. Made it a couple weeks ago. I was off in Ireland, came home, and Danielle Laporte sent out an email, and I was reading it, and she was saying something about be your own guru. And I was like, oh, crap. Do you think people are going to think like that I like that's her thing and not my thing? And it was hilarious because I asked some of my girlfriends and they were like, you realize you tell us this all the time, that the wisdom just needs to be shared and that certain people can only hear it from certain people. So we all need to share it. So yeah, by the way, can you listen to yourself sometimes? Because it's another story. It's just another story.
Well, and that's so beautiful too, because as much as that thread of you and Danielle Laporte may be, similar or even the same, make it exactly the same. Who cares? The way you weave it into your tapestry is going to be different. And the truth is that we're all looking for different access points to this activation of ourselves. And if there was only one access point, we would have let Mama Gina do it, 25 years ago. And we all would be like, all right, we're good to go. But we're not, because we're different access points at different times for different people.
Absolutely. And I so think that for me, the authentic brilliance is a big part of that, because your authentic brilliance is divinely designed to touch certain people. So your people have to hear it from you. They literally cannot hear it from somebody else. I can say to them the exact same words, and because they're not designed for me. They're designed for you. So we all have to say it.
And I even think that as we're working with people, we can say the same things a few times, because I've worked with mentors where all of a sudden the portal will be open for something to drop in. And I've literally said to the last mentor that I said to her, you've said that to me before, haven't you? I'm like a million times. And she's like, a few.
Yeah, exactly.
But today it went in. Today.
I was having the conversation about books, reading books. And I'm like, I often reread the same book. Someone's like, well, why would you reread it? Because I'm a different person when I read it the next time. And something else is going to land just when it's meant to land. So if I pass by my bookshelf and something clicks to pick up a book, I just trust my intuition, grab the book and go for it. And I often find exactly what I need at the exact moment I need it.
Well, and that's such a beautiful way to play with your intuition, right? Because there's no dire consequences with regard to that.
It's true. Very true.
Yeah. And so to just like, oh, this is calling me. And I speak into the podcast around this a lot. Like if something resonates with you and pulls on you a little bit, lean in, move in that direction, see what comes of it.
Absolutely. That's how And if you keep it in that playful mentality, it kind of takes some of the worry out of it. But again, as you do it, you're going to start to notice all of a sudden, like the universe is sending you little love notes all the time. And you're like, oh, 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 oh. Like if you follow a couple, then all of a sudden it's like a big shit ton fall down. You're like, oh, okay, I get it. Right. Beautiful.
Yeah. And sometimes as I sort of pick back through the path and was like, where did this even start?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, wow. Didn't see that coming when that hit me and I stepped this way, you know?
Exactly. And I find it's definitely something that when you practice, it gets so much stronger. It's like the universe, I believe the universe is constantly communicating with us and trying to lead us home to our brilliance. So once you start listening, it's like, oh, she's listening. Okay, here's a few more. Here's a few more so that you can, because now you're paying attention.
Yeah, she desperately wants to be in communion with us.
It's so true. The connection is we're always trying to strengthen that, and the universe is trying to strengthen that for us.
Yeah, I've also spoken into around, I try now to listen to the pebbles that she throws at me so that she doesn't have to throw a boulder.
Yes, exactly. Because she whispers at first, right?
Yeah.
And if you don't listen, sometimes it just gets louder and louder. And maybe not in the ways you really want it to. Oh, hello, sickness.
Right.
Hello, a week in bed.
Yes. So for someone who's listening and felt into the Ruby Slipper School of Magic and is like, where would I even start to feel into magic in my life? Where would be your access point? Like, what would you invite them to do?
Well, honestly, that's why I created the initiation challenge, was because I had so many people in my life saying, okay, like, where do I start? I always used to tell people, and I still think this is a beautiful place to start, is with a morning ritual. Is because I believe that, like, when you really start out your day from that foundation, that place of calm, that place of clarity, and eventually what starts to become a place of a lot of confidence, when you can start your day there, it's like anything. It's like the platform or foundation of a house. When you lay the first part right, everything just tends to be easier on top. And a lot of people I know have implemented that, but then it's like, okay, well, what's the next step? And I think there's a lot of access points, like we've talked about, but what I did with the challenge was corral like 6-7 access points that people can really feel into to start touching into magic. And when I say magic, I'm not talking about like Eye of Newt and like cauldrons and stuff. I'm talking about the vibration.
It's only one flavor, people.
Yes, that's one flavor. I'm talking about like the vibration of magic. So that place where you feel like everything is connected, where you like feel just in flow, where you really can see those love notes coming at you from the universe. Yes. And you feel inspired. And when you hear somebody speaking or you see a piece of art or a piece of music, you're like moved to tears by the brilliance of others because you're so connected in that way. So that's the magic I'm talking about. And that's the magic that, and it is just an energetic vibration. So when we are resonating at the speed of magic, we're connected into this fabric. And that's to me where, you have a lot of heightened intuition, but also where you can feel into things like knowing what somebody else is thinking and being able to communicate. I'm hesitant to say, but telepathically and all that kind of stuff, because you're all connected at the same level, right? It's an energetic field. So to connect into that, there's a number of access points, and self-care, exquisite self-care is one of the biggest. Because when you put your body literally in the relaxation state, it's that's how you can touch into magic super strongly. Gratitude is massive. Being in a place of gratitude, the energy of that puts you in magic. Being in authentic desire, when you're really connected into the things that you want in the world, that connects you into magic. When you're celebrating yourself, when you're looking at the things that you've not just accomplished, but like the steps you've made in your journey, when you have that level of honoring yourself, it deeply connects you into magic.
Oh, I love all of this so much.
Me too.
We're going to take a sacred pause right here so that I can share with you that if you're listening in real time on October 25th, there is one more week to join me for Remembering Divine Union. This is an 8-month virtual journey of stepping in and standing more fully in your true power. It's that space for real transformation. It's that space to come together with the divine feminine and the sacred masculine energy. It's a space to be held in true healing. And I'm overwhelmed by what a beautiful offering this has transformed itself into over the last few months. Oh, yeah. It sort of just blows me away as I feel into it. So if any of that, if standing in your true power, if it's created for me more patience with my daughter, a deeper relationship with my husband, a more intentionally focused business, it's created the space for me to have freedom of choosing what I really want to be bringing into my life. And it's been really beautiful, and it's been really transformative this year. And being called to share it I feel honored, really. And so if this sparks some excitement in you, if you're like, yeah, I want to stand more fully in my power and create more of what I really desire, I invite you to come to rememberingdivineunion.com and connect with us, because we would love to have your presence over the next 8 months as we dive into some really big, beautiful changes where we'll name it, clear it, and create space together. Together is how we do it exponentially more quickly. All right, back to the show. So we've been dancing around this the whole time, but how do you honor the feminine and stay in touch with your intuition?
Yes, every one of the ways I just described.
Can you speak into maybe what your morning ritual is at this moment? Because
Sure.
I don't know about you, but mine shift over time.
Yeah, mine shifts. It tends to have some of the same elements. So I'll literally just walk you through. I get up in the morning. First thing I do is I do oil pulling.
Uh-huh.
You know, you like coconut oil, swish it around in your mouth. And while I'm doing that, I kind of like make the bed and just sort of set my world to a little bit of rights, just a few little tidy things, so that, because I'm kind of OCD and I like things. So if things are like messy from the night, I like it to be organized. Then I make myself some lemon water, hot lemon water. And I go and I sit down and I do morning pages. Mm-hmm. So 3 pages, freehand, just whatever comes into your mind while I'm drinking my lemon water. And then when that's done, I meditate for only about 10 minutes. I find that's enough for me. And after that, I feel into a number of things. This takes about an hour and a half, FYI. But to me, it's like magic time, and it extends the rest of my day. So then after that, I go through what my ways of being, my desired ways of being, and I feel into the energy of the ways I want to feel during the day. Then I feel into my desires, which remain the same, the manifestation of which may change the goal, but the desire stays the same. I spend a little time with my vision board. I know it's a lot, but I worked up to this. It wasn't always this long. And then I literally remind myself of my current goals. And then after that, I have a Danielle Laporte, journal, like day planner, mm-hmm. and she's got some great prompts in there. So I go through those. And then as I'm doing that, I let the important things of my day filter up. So I like to come up with the 3 main things that are going to, move my goals forward. And I let those kind of come to the surface. And then I put it away and go eat breakfast, play with my daughter, play with my dog, work out, and then I get to work.
Lovely.
Yeah.
And yeah, So no one feel like that you have to devote an hour and a half or you have to have a number of practices, because often mine feels like sitting down, taking 3 deep breaths, feeling into what oracle card deck feels the most up in a particular day, and asking what guidance there is for me.
Absolutely. Beautiful. I actually have a program called Start Your Day, Revamp Your Life. It's free, and it's how to design your own personal morning ritual. And it has all sorts of ideas in there, just small things, like little things, like lay on the ground. And I have a guided meditation there, and go through a body scan, 7 minutes. 7 minutes in the morning, just to touch yourself in, ground yourself in your body, and then go start your day. You don't have to do these big, long things. You may find over time, like myself, you kind of gather them and you don't want to let any of them go.
Yeah.
But you don't have to either. And there's times when I'm not doing that. There's times when I'm traveling and I'll pull the one that feels the best for that day. Or sometimes I'll just do nothing. I don't love those days. I'm not going to lie. I always feel better when I do something.
But then isn't that a beautiful touchstone, right?
Yeah.
To feel into how you feel on a day when you didn't do anything, and to know that, oh, these do feel really important, even if it's a small amount, right? And so that's the thing, is start to play with some of this and see what feels good to you in this particular phase of your life, right?
Absolutely. We learn through contrast too, right? So sometimes we have to feel into the other before we remember how good the first one. And I go through that all the time. I cycle like everybody else. Like that's part of the journey, is going through that cycle again and again. What's really great is when you have sisters and a sisterhood of people in your life that, when you're like sort of in the tricky parts of the cycle, they go, by the way, remember what comes next? It's okay. You're going to be fine. And you're like, oh, thank God somebody remembers, because right now I don't.
Yeah. And sisterhood has been such a healing space, right? A place to come and be truly seen and deeply heard and supported and held as you support and hold.
Absolutely.
And I don't know about you, but it's come in like in the last 3 years, and I didn't know I was missing it. And now I don't know what I would do without it.
It's so true. We require to be witnessed. It's something about the human being that to be fully in our vulnerability and in our power, it has to be visible and it has to be seen by somebody else. Not as a validation, but there's something about us that requires that somebody witnesses our brilliance, and all of a sudden it becomes more real for us. And so I think that's part of the connection. I think you feel into the connection so much more deeply when it's witnessed. It's an important part, the vulnerability and the visibility.
Yes, it is. And I think both has happened, like with the magic and like grounding and feeling into, say, Mother Earth and all these things, like, and my guides and all these things. Like, I can feel held cosmically, but I couldn't tap into that until I felt held on this earthly plane by my sisters. So it's both for me.
It is both. It's absolutely both. And I love how one reinforces the other, and they just keep building on each other. Yeah, absolutely. I said that my background is in the film industry, and I think I said that, or did I say that this morning?
No,
sorry, sometimes.
You did. You were talking about binge watching TV.
Right. Okay.
Which I can totally appreciate.
So yes. So one of the things that I've brought into my work so much more is helping people make videos for their creative businesses and for soulful entrepreneurs, because the visibility part, it's not just about how much other people can connect with you on video and your customers can find you and your clients and your tribe. But when you step into that visibility through video, there's an energy that comes in and there's a confidence that comes in. And when you flex that courage muscle, all of a sudden your vulnerability opens up and your ability to connect to yourself opens up.
It's so interesting that you say that. What that brings up is that our Honor the Feminine Daily Facebook group around the podcast, I have been, this new thing that I'm doing is inviting the guest for the week to come Facebook Live in that group on Friday, anytime that feels good to them. Can be 2 minutes, can be 30, up to 30 minutes, whatever feels good to them. And
I love that.
yeah, it's been really fun. And the amount of times that I have heard, oh, that feels very vulnerable and I haven't quite done a Facebook Live before, or how do I do it? And I'm like, yeah, so now I've got an email. It's like, if that's the case, here's how you do it, just the logistics of it. And it's gotten me inviting the sisters in that group to come on Facebook Live and practice in this sacred, safe space. Because here we are.
It's so perfect because, I'm loving that so much. I run something called the Just Hit Record Challenge, which I originally started that challenge as a way to get people to start using video, because we all know that video marketing, quote unquote, works amazingly. But what I didn't realize, and what actually happened when people started just hitting record and making videos for the first time, was this beautiful thing of the connection they were making to themselves. They were seeing themselves in a whole different way. So now the Just Hit Record Challenge is a whole different thing. And it's so much more in line with my own brilliance and with what I want to teach people. It's amazing. I would love to hear from some of your guests who hadn't done the video before and how doing that Facebook Live felt for them for the first time. Just so cool.
And it's because I don't have any expectations around it. I mean, I was being asked today, by this week's guest, she's like, well, what do you want me to talk about? I said, I want you to talk about whatever's up for you right now, whatever's on your heart. It's about our tribe being able to connect with you in a different way, because the podcast comes out audio. So this is a place for them to just drop in with you and see you for, again, anywhere from 2 to 30 minutes. I love
that you've added that. Love it.
It like dawned on me literally a couple of months ago. And that week, I haven't even talked about it previously. Now I guess you're going to be like, oh, can I? Of course you can. But I just sent out that week. Like, I literally sent it today for Friday and like, hey, I've been doing this. Do you want to come play?
Yeah. It's a really cool medium. It's so much more than I thought it was, because I was kind of burnt out from all things film industry when I left. Mm-hmm. And people kept asking me about it and asking, could you teach me this? And I was like, I don't the video. And then all of a sudden I fell back in love with it for this very reason.
Well, I think that way of being seen and being authentically seen, it's just such a beautiful medium for that. I mean, we can talk about, the marketing and the strategy and all of that. And of course there's some of that, but the bottom line is you get to show up and be seen. Exactly.
And it's like a great way to share all those quirky things about you and stuff. Like, you can see people's weirdo rooms and like their little smile and all the best parts. Yeah.
It's like I'm a huge fan. You can't hide your freak. I mean, you may be able to do it on your written blog, but when you're here and my hands are moving and my body's shaking, like, I mean, I go Facebook Live in our group, 2, 3, 4 times a week. And I go very often, unshowered, no makeup, half the time I don't have panties on.
They probably don't see that part.
No. It's just that just speaks to the like unpreparedness of it all, right? In this unpolished way. And I just speak into whatever's up. And so it's becoming a space. And I actually, as we're talking about it, I'm feeling it even more.
Yeah, I can feel it.
Yeah. It's fascinating because I hadn't really pulled all of it together. That's why we get together and do this, though, so we can.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
These are it's funny because I'm an introvert, and I had this conversation with somebody the other day, and I was on a writing retreat. That's what I was doing in Ireland. And there was a number of people there, and somebody was saying to me, well, then like they looked at me like kind of sideways, like, you're an introvert? And I'm like, yep. I'm like, well, how, but you like seem to be enjoying this so much. I'm like, no. Don't get this wrong. Introverts love conversation. They just don't like small talk. So getting together in a juicy freaking conversation like this all day, every day, bring it. I'm super happy.
Oh, me too. I actually identify as an extrovert, so I can actually do both. But yeah, it's nothing turns me on more. I mean, I wouldn't do the podcast if we didn't get to do this. Like, this is the reason I continue to do the podcast, that we get together, drop into the magic, learn from each other, enliven each other, and then we get to share it out into the world.
Yeah. And these are my favorite kind of podcasts. I love how you don't, okay, people in podcast land, sometimes people get pre-assigned questions. This does not happen with Shannon, which I love because, I mean, I don't mind, like a starting point. It's great. But when you can really just follow the flow of the energy of the conversation, it's beautiful. And magical things happen.
And it's really been an exercise for me around letting go of any expectations about what's going to come out. Because what I've learned is that if I show up present and playful and I invite you to do the same and we drop into sacred space together, it's going to be more beautiful more often than I could have ever imagined.
Yeah. So agree. So agree.
On that note, my love, are you ready for the random questions?
I'm ready for the random questions. Let's hear it.
Okay. So, if you could sit down with a woman, alive or dead, for a chat and tea, who would it be?
My grandma.
Why?
Yeah. Oh, she was a force. She was a force, and she was Irish, and she had the best stories. She actually came from a long line of storytellers, oral tradition storytellers, and she could weave a story like nobody else. And again, it's one of those things as a kid, I didn't realize how lucky I was with the stories she was telling me. And I used to climb into bed with her in the mornings and we'd have a cup of tea and that my grandfather had made for us. And we'd pass the tea back and forth and she'd tell me these stories, like being in London during the Blitz and like what that was like, and stories of in Ireland growing up, and then the early days of being a war bride in Canada, and all these like amazing things. And as much as I have taken them in, I just want to hear them again. I want to hear the stories again. I want to ask questions. I have so many more questions. And I just would love to just sit in that bed, cuddle in and have a cup of tea with my grandma.
I love it. And the second question is, where would you most like to travel?
Oh, that's a tricky one. Oh, that's a tricky. Sorry, I just go back to Ireland. I'm so, I've been back like a week and I'm like, when am I going back? When am I going back? Was
that your Irish first trip? No.
I actually have my Irish citizenship, and when I go there, I just feel so at home. Especially the country, when I'm in the countryside, it's beyond, I use this word so much. I need to come up with more, but it is beyond magic.
I think that's a beautiful word. Let's be honest.
It is.
So my love, how do we reach out and connect with you and get more Casey in our lives?
Well, the easiest way is probably to find me on my website, which is just www.caseyerinwood.com. And there you can find links to all sorts of good stuff. But right at the top is a link to find the Ruby Slipper School of Magic and to get into that initiation challenge. And honestly, it's probably the thing I'm most connected to in my heart that I've put out in a long time. I'm writing a book, so there's a big part of my heart there too. But this is it's taken all of the wisdom that I've been swirling and learning and taking in and coalescing it into one spot. And I would love to see more women getting in touch with their intuition and their own magic.
Yeah, I love that. And we will put the links and everything over at honorthefeminine.com in the show notes for this episode, so people have a really easy way to connect with you.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'd love to meet some of your ladies. I'm sure your community is filled with loves just like you.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for today. This was so fun.
Oh, absolutely. I enjoyed it so much.
Hello again, everyone. It was great to be with Casey. I love this idea of really finding your authentic brilliance, and really that so often our gifts, our real brilliance, we take it for granted because it's so innate to us. And I also love this idea of just being our awkward, quirky, wonderful selves, because we're divinely set up to speak to a certain people and to resonate with them, right? And Casey just brings all of that with so much joy and dynamism. And I love being with her. So if you want to connect more with Casey, please go over to the show notes for this episode at honorthefeminine.com. As I mentioned in the middle of this episode, Remembering Divine Union, if you're listening to this live around October 25th, Remembering Divine Union will be open till the end of the month, till the end of October. And it's an 8-month virtual journey to really deepen in with me and my co-creator, Ava Aldinolfi, around standing more fully in your power. And we're committed to moving forward and to making real change and really diving into clearing our old stories so that we can create what we really desire. If that interests you, if that sparks something, you can go over to rememberingdivineunion.com. Also, we have a sacred space for the podcast and sharing your ideas and things that you loved about the podcast, and it's over on Facebook at Honor the Feminine Daily. I'd love for you to join us there. I go live there pretty often. And finally, if you love this episode, please share it with a friend. And I also invite you to subscribe because we have more amazing episodes coming up. All right. Have a wonderful day.